Last episode, you were tickling my pickle a little bit with this Shai and Chet comps to Shaq and Kobe.
Sure, man.
Kobe and Shaq, Shaq and Kobe, Chet and Shai,
I mean,
Shai and Chet. Let's just pick it up right there because I feel like we just kind of like let that slide too much, and let's just keep going, bro.
yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. Mark and I, we don't talk about podcasts a lot beforehand. We put it together on the roll. So I'm glad that you brought this up because I had a lot of things to say about it. But obviously, there's things that I want to throw out there. A lot of people will be like, well, Shaq was like 60 pounds, heavier than Chet. And I get that. And I can respect that.
Chet is shooting
And
50% from three, and he can shoot 90% free throw line. Okay, go ahead.
there we go. That's my point there, is that like you can find comps that will make it so that's like even here, even there, whatever. Shaq was obviously dominant to the whole point where he changed the game. If you look at draft picks after Shaq came, big centers became all of a sudden, more valuable. I think we're going to see the same thing with Chet, is that people are going to have to go out and guys like Bola that have been journeymen throughout their entire lives in the NBA, all of a sudden they'll find teams because there'll be these freak of natures that are 7 foot something and can play on Victor or play on Chet. And I look at Chet and I say, he's going to change the game, like Shaq changed the game. He just is. Like, people are going to have to try to stop Chet whenever he comes to town. And the great thing about that is that if you look at it, it's kind of switched, because Shaq was the older one between Kobe and him. He came in with more experience. Now, Shai is the opposite. Shai comes in with more experience, and he's the older player. And I like that because we've seen what happens when Kobe had that team, and it was his team, and he was the veteran player on that. I think there comes a time in each of these players' lives where they have to be able to do that and have to separate themselves. So for me, I look at it and I say, I would rather have my shooting guard / point guard / small forward be the older player than my center. If my center is the older player, there is this prima donna that happens with everybody in the locker room. And it's just this different vibe because let's just put it out there. Centers are fucking weird. They just are. Like, I've never known a normal center. They're like closing pitchers, or like offensive linemen or like kickers. You know what I'm saying? Like, like the guys that everybody's like, ooh, that's the weird group, right? Centers are like that. And when you have a center that's the head of that whole group, it gets kind of funky in the locker room. So having Shai, that leader in the locker room, is going to normalize everything. And to me, it's just a beautiful combination.
So what other comps historically? Like, I was thinking about Magic and Kareem when they teamed up. Like, you had a rookie in Magic. Kareem was a veteran, and Magic could go out and get 30. I mean, if you're thinking like guard center combos and you're going back historical elements, I hope people in the chat will help us out here or in the comments, because I'm not exactly sure, Dave. Like, there's very few.
So why don't we
go ahead?
Why don't we do this? Why don't we ask everybody that listens to our podcast? We love you all. You guys are all very vocal in your thoughts and all that stuff, and we want to get this going on in the chat. So look back at the history of the game, if you don't mind, and
Rob Cousy,
pick
Bill
out
Russell.
a center and guard combination that you see that Chet and Shai remind you of. It doesn't have to be rookie. It doesn't have to be third or fourth year player. It just has to be a combination of two players that are a center and a guard that reminds you of Chet and Shai.
Yeah, and just the youth they have at the same time is unparalleled also. It gives them a chance to grow together. I don't really know how else to kind of like quantify it other than like we're watching a transition for something special. And, what Victor's doing is special, but there's this other element of what Chet's doing where you're just glad they're both in the game at the same time. Like, if Chet can somehow take the Rookie of the Year, and a lot of people are saying he's ahead in Rookie of the Year right now, and Victor is doing things I've never seen anybody do before, like, this is an incredible Rookie of the Year race, and we should all just be grateful we're alive for it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But just put it out there. When Gary Payton III blocks a 7'3" guy, it doesn't look good on you. Anyways, so getting back to
you got to watch the highlights between him and Jokic from last night.
Yeah, like, pretty crazy.
It was really special. It's just like, I'm very happy for Victor. I hope he can find a way to get some wins, but in the end, losses aren't necessarily bad for their organization. It's just
No,
bad for his
they
his
need
psyche.
like I've said this since day one. I want San Antonio Spurs to be horrible for the next 2 years because I want Victor to have a couple other guys around him so that we can have a true battle in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
A true battle. Because at this point, guys, were the Kings going to be good in 2 years?
Not really.
Okay, like we can go down this road. We can talk about all these teams in the West right now. You've got in 2 years, Denver might be good, but they'll be in the mid 30s at that point. Like we can just keep on rolling all this stuff down, and we start, peeling off the layers, and we start realizing really fucking fast, guys, that in 2 years, 3 years, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to be on the island by themselves. So having another team like San Antonio Spurs have a couple other picks that would be good. I think will be great because we all know Portland could have 40 picks in the next 5 years, and they still would bomb those picks. So,
Yeah, what would the Harlem Globetrotters be without the Generals?
exactly, bro.
People
Exactly.
will be like, "Oh, they cheated their entire generation," and then so we got to have a team that at least looks like they're good enough to compete on paper
Yes.
anyway.
But again, like this goes back to the dynamics of having a player like Chet and Shea and going to the draft and picking up these players and rolling the dice and saying, you know what, fuck it. I hope I get a top 3 pick this year. Like that's what you got to do. I mean, that's what I love about Sam is that like I feel like sometimes that I call it slamming your dick on the table, slam dick.
Hmm.
I love the slam dick.
The slam
Or we call it dick slam too,
big
right?
slam.
The
Welcome to
good old
Denny's.
fashioned dick slam. So you have to once in a while like put your balls on the table, and say, I've got to roll, like Sam Presti calls it what broke money don't make no money. Like that. I mean, Sam Presti understands this. There's an element to rolling the dice and when to roll the dice. And you got to be brilliant about it. So I look at how Sam rolled the dice and he got Chet. You put Chet and Shea next to each other and you got a crazy dynamic. And I want to say, like, if like the reality is, I think that Shea is going to play center his entire life? No. But I think he's good at center. But if he switches over to that power forward role, like that's when it gets scary because let's just say that for all intensive purposes, we have Chet and Shea, like Kobe Shaq, right? But then you have somebody like Josh Giddey who's playing point guard. Then you've got Chet and I don't know, Karl Malone and John Stockton. You know what I'm saying? That crazy dynamic 1-2 punch that can do crazy things, the pick and rolls and stuff like that. Those guys can do that stuff,
Yeah.
Like then you take it on J-Dub, right? Chet and J-Dub. You're like, man, who does those guys remind you of? Well, here's another option. Like the reality is that you got 6'6" guy that can jump out of the gym, and you got a 7-footer that can do all the other stuff for you. When have we ever seen a team that has 2 of those guys, much less 1? And how do you compare J-Dub? And this is what I have to say about this is J-Dub is so going to be so elite that when Chet and J-Dub are clicking together, right? You're going to see the separation. Everybody's like, whoa. See, we saw it with Josh and Chet. We saw it with Shea and Chet. But J-Dub and Chet? Because, like, how many times in history, think about it, guys, how many times in history have we been able to talk about 4 different players in 4 different positions and adding the big man to that and them being elite as a 1-2 punch? Think about it.
Yeah.
There's never been a team like this. There's never been a team where it's been like Shea and Chet, Josh and Chet, J-Dub and Chet, Isaiah Joe and Chet, J-Will and Chet. I mean, we can go. That's why Chet is the man. You could put him in with any other player and instantaneously they become elite in the league. Elite. Right now. Because we've seen it happen with Isaiah Joe. Chet sits screens for Isaiah Joe. He goes up there and he recognizes where the ball's movement's happening, right? He goes up there for a decoy. Because the second he comes to a certain spot, he recognizes defender, Isaiah Joe's defenders cheats on him. Guys, go back to the film. Watch it. I'm telling you right now. Isaiah Joe is the best with Chet on the floor and Chet setting these fake ghost screens, whatever it is to get Isaiah Joe open. I mean, he'll pass the ball at him at like halfway down the lane. He'll throw this lob cross court pass to him, wide open in the corner. Like, he understands how to make each one of these players better. You know, it's truly spectacular. And we've said in the past is that there's very few rookies that have ever been able to pick it up like that and been able to put it into a certain gear and get it. And guys, if I had to bet on a rookie that could do it, like Tim Duncan could do it, like some of these other great rookies could do it, it has to be Chet. He's got that fire. He's got that desire to be great. And the more space that the coach gives him, the better it is. He shot 5 for 11 in the threes last game, but he also took a crazy fadeaway, 5 feet behind the line 3-point at the very end of the game. Missed it. So really, he shot 50%, shooting 5 for 10 from threes, guys. Like, this is insane. His shots aren't easy. It's not like yes, they're leaving him semi-open, but even if they weren't leaving him semi-open, there would be open shots for him. Nobody can guard him. Nobody. It's unlike anything I've ever seen before for a rookie.
Buckle up, guys. It's going to be a month like you guys can't ever believe. A December to remember when the Thunder let everybody know they're here to stay. Let's go, baby.